Okay, recording TST meeting, David?
Thank you. Yeah, so starting with acknowledgements, I'm pulling up the wiki page. I'm not seeing anything there, so we can just open it up to the floor. And also, just as a reminder, it's kind of, this is a new process, so it might not be something that you think about. I don't know, maybe I could do a little bit more of a reminder or something each week, perhaps. But are there any acknowledgements people want to share out? Have you worked with somebody in the past week, couple weeks that you really want to just take a moment to recognize?
Yeah, I'd like to acknowledge Matteo for all of the work he's been doing on the demos and the UI lately. It's really been helpful.
Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, double that.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I'm sure it's been an intense time for him.
Well, just generally, everyone is under enormous crunch right now with both trying to get a release ready to go and the demos weighing on us. I do appreciate I certainly appreciate everyone's contributions and effort there. We're getting squeezed pretty good right now.
That's great. Yeah, well, I'm glad we're taking the time to say thank you for sure. And I will add just one kind of anecdote. I've been trying to incent the ONOS community to do more recognition. So I've been tweeting each week, and I'm about to do it again. I've been offering a free ONOS hoodie to anyone who will post a shout out on the ONOS acknowledgement wiki page, and nobody has done it yet. So it's just, it's one of those things that I think once it becomes a habit, it will be easier to do, but doing the culture change to make it a habit is the hard part. And so like,
the point is that we already have an ONOS hoodie.
Is that we already have one?
The ONOS hoodie.
Well, we do, yeah.
So not enough of an incentive.
But other people, I will send one to somebody for free out in the community. I mean, I think this is, so thank you for that. This goes to my point. Like, we really need to be the people modeling this so that other people will be doing it too. So I really do want to encourage other people who come to these calls regularly to be remembering about this wiki page and putting stuff on there. And I think we'll then be modeling this behavior for other people, and it will get into a nice self-reinforcing cycle. But until that happens, it's a big hurdle, because with the ONOS TNT calls, you know, if I'm not doing it, it often doesn't happen. So, you know, I don't want to necessarily nag, but I will.
David, keep nagging. We'll get there.
Yeah. Okay. But thank you, Scott, for offering that shout out to Matteo.
So we've got a couple other topics. The big one having to do with how we're going to prioritize getting enterprise and mobile Cord in the next release, or what that means. I wanted to quickly circle back and revisit something we talked about last week, and there's been a little progress. I just want to get an update and make everyone aware of it. And that is just on QA planning. Not that we have a plan per se, but we are trying to construct a more coherent plan. Suchitra, do you want to say a few words about where things are with that?
Regarding the QA plan?
Yeah.
Okay, so for this release, we just have the same things going on. So what we are at this point is, we are right now converging the control plane and the data plane test. So we are going to create some tests around the CIAB itself, and we will be having some end-to-end tests by the end of this release. And for the physical pod, we already got access from the QCT team. So we have some stories around this sprint to start activities on physical pod, and then we are going to analyze and then port some of the test cases that we have on CIAB to use it as physical pod. And then I think we have to also analyze like how we have to like optimize some of the test cases and the framework in order to use for various pods also. So that will take some time. So this was actually not a plan of this dangerous edition, but we put it as part of the next release, but we started the work early on so we can ramp up things faster on the physical pod. So that's the high level plan for the QA in terms of dangerous edition. And going forward, I think we wanted to have a QA community call or a call where all the collaborators are going to be also involved, and service providers and vendors. So we will be having a call every Thursday, 10 to 11 a.m. PST time. And over there, we are going to, one of the items that we want to discuss is like the planning for the QA or overall strategy, and going forward, how should we be going with aligning things from the QA side, the framework side, and how the collaborators will be contributing, and everybody is actually working towards one common goal. So we want to align things properly so that we can have a good QA strategy and planning towards core testing.
So thanks. So that call is Thursday, 10 to 11 Pacific. I haven't looked. Is there an event on the calendar?
Yes, I already put that on the calendar, Larry.
Okay.
Yesterday I scheduled a meeting on that. Yeah.
Great. All right. So everyone can find that link there.
Yes, and I wasn't sure. Also, I wasn't sure like who to include. So right now, what I have included is all the collaborators and the members of the community who are actually using, involved in the Cord QA development, and also the service providers who have the use cases for Cord testing. I wasn't sure whom else to include, so you please let me know so I can add the people accordingly in that mailing list.
Well, so hopefully this announcement will alert people to, just talking about it here will alert people to that this is happening. And I think, early on, the broader the involvement, the better, just so everyone tries to get aligned on what's going on. And then, maybe it thins out over time as you drill down.
Okay.
Well, I don't see it on the Cord calendar. So
actually, I haven't included you, Yan. This I scheduled individual people on that. Maybe I can add accordingly.
Okay,
yeah,
Probably
we probably
calendar. Yeah, as you mentioned, I can add it there.
thanks.
okay.
Sure.
Yeah, that will give everyone a pointer if they want to follow it. I'm not too worried about having too many people showing up, only in the sense that I will probably self-select just because everyone has so much going on.
I agree. Sure, definitely.
I guess if we start having too many people at meetings, we can consider that a success, not a problem.
Yeah, that's no problem.
Okay, so thanks for that update.
All right, thanks.
So just to circle back on the QCT pods, you're I don't know if Luke is on. You are now able to run Jenkins against it.
Is Luca in there, or maybe?
Luke is not here.
Luke is probably dressed as a firefighter saving the server room.
Okay.
I know that Kit deployed the pod last week.
Matteo, could you say that again? There was some interference.
Last week, he finally succeeded to deploy the QCT pod automatically from Jenkins.
Okay, perfect. That's
he
great.
deployed one of them, and he said it should be fairly easy to replicate for the other three, but I don't know the status.
Thank you for that update.
Sorry, Larry, I can also add for Luca. He had put the Jenkins job, as Matteo was saying, and one of it is reserved for QA, so we are also going to use it. And then we have every day there is a nightly job that actually builds QA. The pods in general.
So there is also on this front a Google Doc, and maybe it's premature to point people at it, but I think it's probably okay. Can you, let's see, like in the chat window, put the link? I got so many tabs open, I can't find it.
The doc which Luca had been writing on?
No, the QA doc that you'd been working on. That you
the QA. Yes. Yeah, I will do that. So do you want me to share it right now?
If you could just put the link in the chat window. No, I'm sorry, you probably aren't at it.
Yeah, I can do that. No worries.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Oh, that's what I was looking for. Okay, so let's talk about M-Cord and E-Cord. Maybe Yuan, we should start with you since you first raised this issue and just looking at the sprint planning and so on.
Yeah, so we went through sprint planning yesterday, and as we look at this next sprint, right, we're looking at 4 weeks, but some of the functionality for the refactoring effort won't be in until post ONS, which only gives us 2 weeks to really integrate the M-Cord and E-Cord functionality. And so the feel from the team is that with such a short window, there won't be time to fully do the integration and get everything migrated over to the updated version of XOS.
So there's a gray area here, which I'd like to see if we can figure out how to exploit, which is that the XOS refactoring should leave old 2.0 implementations of services. Services implemented the 2.0 interface should still work. They just won't have upgraded to the new interface, which is, I guess, to say the platform is still backward compatible. First of all, that's just purely the XOS interface. That's not talking about the build process, which the M-Cord, E-Cord folks need to be up to date with, because that will be an integral part of obviously building out a configuration. So if we separate build from XOS and just focus on the build, that's pretty well stable. And so are the E-Cord and M-Cord people making good progress with that migration? Are they up to date there? It should be the first question.
E-Cord is pretty much up to date.
M-Cord?
I have no idea.
I don't think so. Not yet.
Okay. So M-Cord, well, that means M-Cord's still back on 2.0 build.
Yes. To my knowledge, that is true.
Larry, just to give a little bit more context on the E-Cord side of things, I ported it to the new build process. I'm not on the master as is right now because of I wanted to build properly for ONS. So some commits that came in the last week, I'd say, are not ported to the E-Cord related things. But at least just for the build, meaning the platform install, I am like a week behind the work the guys are doing.
Okay, so
as today.
Okay, good. Thank you. So there's another factor, which is the E-Cord and M-Cord teams are, I'm sure, not anxious to finish off the integration work when they still have demos in front of them. So
that's exactly the case, Larry. I mean, I was personally thinking of diving into this after ONS.
Okay, so this is clearly, I mean, this has to be. This is the only way this is going to work. So,
Larry, here's the other question. The feature freeze date, is that going to be honored by platform and well, XOS team?
Well, let's see what Scott and Soppen have to say about that. I think my understanding is that from an API point of view, it will be locked, but there will be some things that they can do in parallel that shouldn't affect anyone else. So let me see, Scott or Soppen.
Sure. So regarding the synchronizers, it's expected that you will be able to port your service synchronizers to the new framework, and that shouldn't change out from under you. The remaining work that we have that we're expecting to do is mostly with the building of the core container. And that's something we can drop in later that should not affect service developers.
So I think it comes down to what processes are we trying to build, right? So I understand we're pretty early on in terms of Cord and development and processes. So the question comes down to, when we say feature freeze, do we really mean feature freeze or not?
Well, we mean feature freeze, but then we have to define feature. And so let's call the API the feature, because that would be one interpretation. And
but if development is still occurring on the rest of the functionality, that could imply more defects come in. And the point of the hardening sprint is for us to be testing and working through defects.
Yeah, I think we're going to have one of two things has to happen. Either we have a somewhat flexible, fluid definition of feature freeze, or we postpone the release date. I think the strategy that has sort of organically evolved here is trying to exploit as much parallelism as we possibly can. And if you can lock something down so someone else can do their job while you finish doing your job, then that is the way to squeeze a little parallelism out of the process. It comes with risk.
So, for example, do we split core functionality or platform functionality versus kind of the use case functionality? So do we lock down the base platform and eCord and mCord can continue? And if something occurs there where there's risk and it's not stable, would the platform ship without? Right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a reasonable strategy, that we try to exploit the ability to, lock down an interface so that E and mCord can do their work. And if by, in the background, some parallel activity disrupting that, we can make a late call and say we're just not going to make it with E and mCord. That is certainly an option. I mean, it might be the only way that we can make progress here. So let me go back. So we're conflating a lot of things here. So there's the build process, and even there, where that's essentially stable and feature frozen to a first approximation, M and eCord aren't going to be able to complete that work until after ONS, so that gives them 2 weeks, best case scenario. And that is, talking about the XOS part. And did I capture that right?
Yeah, more or less. So the document that I discussed yesterday during the sprint planning talks about a little bit of work that's still needed on the build system, but that regards the new way of building synchronizers, building and publishing synchronizer containers. So if the assumption is that eCord and mCord are going to use services that are basically Cord 2.0 services that have their synchronizers built the old way, then I think that's correct, what you said.
Okay. But it's also, there's two halves. That's correct. One half is what's stable, and the other half is that eCord and mCord aren't even going to get to it for 2 weeks yet, or a week and a half, or whatever.
Larry, I'm going to speak up again on this, because I think that things are never going to be easier than they are now. And the more that we continue to try and say that mCord and eCord and rCord all release at the same time as the base platform, I think makes life more difficult than it needs to be. I think we should stay pretty strict on getting the base platform done and the interfaces done for that base platform. But there's always, once those interfaces are done and frozen, it may take 2 weeks, it may take 5 weeks for one of mCord or rCord or something to do what they need to do. And to say that, well, we'll just be fluid with the end release date, just means you're just going to keep sliding release dates.
Thanks, Bill. That's a great point. And that was kind of where I was trying to get to, but I didn't do it the right way, which is the way that we exploit the gray area. One option is the fluid release date, but you're right that we shouldn't go that way. The other way we exploit the gray area is the release is I don't know what we're going to call it. Let's just assume it's 3.0. there's a 3.0 interface, and that includes the build process and the core. And eCord and mCord will potentially run just fine against the legacy interface, or not, because they haven't upgraded the build part yet. And then we don't necessarily have to wait until Shared Delusion to incrementally release upgraded versions of the eCord and mCord services. Now, I don't know whether we call that 3.1, 3.2, or exactly how we characterize it, but the point is that we can incrementally bring the E and mCord services up to the Dangerous Edition spec, and that on their own timeline. And I think maybe the way Bill would put it is that technically this is just a release of mCord to 5 weeks from now or whatever it is, written to the 3.0 interface.
Yep, exactly.
So there's one more complicating factor, and I don't know if Surab is on yet or not, but he keeps pointing out, oh, there he is, accurately, that we tend to focus on the orchestration conformance, but we don't really talk enough about the fabric and VTN conformance. And so while I don't know that we've done an audit recently or in quite a while as to, let's just take mCord for example, whether it's bypassing VTN or using, conformant with VTN, and similarly for the fabric. So I don't know if that we have any answers to that, but I'm just raising the point that in some sense you're not actually, compliant, or whatever word you want to use, until we cross all those hurdles. Okay, dead response. So
well, for mCord at least, to my knowledge, we are in conformance right now. We are using VTN and fabric.
Okay, I knew that this was something that gets raised from time to time, and I just hadn't heard. And as far as I know, eCord fits as well, but I just don't know that I don't know what to call it. That audit or that confirmation has happened.
I mean, there may be an odd DNF here and there from a vendor that may require some deviation, but all in all, we are in conformance.
Good. And that's, for all I know, eCord is as well. I mean, everything I'd seen was the intent was that way.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Okay, good. So what I think this reduces to is the next release does everything it possibly can to freeze and lock in the new APIs, the new build. Let's call it the build API and the XOS API, and at eCord and mCord can announce and will delay the decision as to whether we call it 3.1 or exactly how we characterize it. But that a certain new set of services and service graphs are now up to spec with this particular platform API, and make that announcement/release. And if it happens to coincide, then great. But if it doesn't, that we know how to live with that. Ewan, does that satisfy your requirements?
Yes, I think that would be great. And if maybe eCord and mCord teams can come back to the TST with potential integration dates. I know that some folks have been asking around when those are going to occur.
At least from my point of view, and I guess the eCode point of view, is that I need at least the ONS week plus at least 2 weeks just to understand what needs to be done. So I cannot give you the date until.
Yeah,
agreed. Yeah, I think it's the teams.
The date is kind of impossible.
Yeah, yes. That's exactly right. So the objective here is to have a tentative date for eCord and MCord as of the end of this coming sprint, as opposed to having it today.
I think that's fine.
Okay, thanks. All right, we're slowly but surely gaining clarity on how things work. Last point on the agenda is the point that Matteo raised about code review. I'd like to broaden that just a little bit, just to talk about best practices in general.
Really quickly, will we have 10 minutes to speak about the open collaborator proposals at the end after that?
Well, we can talk. I still don't know that we technically have. Actually, we do have a quorum today. So we've got Surav, Mark, Andy, and myself. So I guess at least, I'm sorry if I missed somebody. All right, let's talk about that for a minute and see what comes of it.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail the.
Well, no, I knew that issue was out there, and I was dragging my feet because I didn't know that we could actually do anything about it. But I think we can, or at least we can talk about doing something about it. All right, so we have NG4T and what was the other one? Ixia. And they are both QA related, but they're QA for MCord. And we discussed them last week, and there was a general sense that, well, maybe it's a little early because we don't have a complete QA testing procedure in place that they could plug into. Does anyone want to pick up on that general theme and offer any way we can?
That in general is true, but at the same time, both companies have significant experience in developing test environments. So if we were to actually start working with them even prior to us deciding on what to do, they can influence us in the right direction, I think.
So that would be very helpful. So can we get them to set down their particular axe that they want to grind and help us on the general QA platform so as to enable them to bring their particular tests?
I'm sure we can get them to do that for us, yes.
What came up last week, which I really, really liked, was that what we want from them is not their full capabilities, but if they could bring one test forward as an example that kind of pushes the integration into the framework as opposed to pushes the boundary of what the test can do. That would be helpful both to flesh out the foundation and get them hooked in for further expansion. And with that understanding and the fact that we collaborators all the time are running in parallel with what we're doing in the core, just in anticipation of bringing it in the future, I'm in favor of approval. I just see what others on the TST have to say.
I'm clearly in favor.
Andy, Saurabh, Mark?
That seems reasonable to me.
Yeah, I'm okay with this too.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, great. Let's consider them both done then. But let's work really hard to get them help us build out the shared QA framework and not do a parallel one.
Yeah, Larry, I'll set up a meeting with them and very clearly state that this is our intent and this is how we would like to proceed with them.
Good, and getting them plugged into the QA meeting that's going to happen on Thursdays would be a great first step.
Okay, and I'll follow up with them and get them on the website and stuff. Okay, great.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for making that easy.
Okay, so I'm sorry, Larry, just a quick question. So can I get the contact of those people so I can just make sure I just ping them and then make sure that they attend the call for Thursday so we can discuss further?
Yeah, David, if you could get her the links, that would be great, or the addresses.
Yeah, sure.
So
Okay.
Suchitra, you and Oz can sync up on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe you can add me to your invitee list, and then I will forward that invitation to Ixia and G40.
Okay, sure. Yeah, that sounds great.
Because
Thanks.
the names that we have might not be their core engineers
Sure,
who will
sure.
be participating.
Yeah, I'm probably dealing with different people.
Yeah.
Than, yeah.
All
Fair
right. Sure. Yeah, thanks, Bill. Thanks, David.
Okay, so let's move on to the code review topic. And like I said, I'd like to broaden it just a little bit. But before I do, I just noticed that for those logged into GoToMeeting, you put a link to a document that outlines what developers need to do to bring themselves up to speed with the refactoring, both build refactoring and XOS core refactoring and everything to do with protobufs. So that is the best place to figure out how far you are from coming up to speed with Dangerous Edition. And ask questions there. This is This is going to be a pretty important document to help everyone come up to speed.
Yeah, we reviewed it at sprint planning yesterday, and so we've also noted what can be started now versus wait until after ONS. But I think one of the things we had also discussed is probably the week right after ONS and Sapan is in the Bay, if he can do a tutorial on Xproto, that would really help the teams ramp up on that and understand it better.
Yeah, that is the plan. That'd be a really good thing to happen. Okay, and then it's editing in real time. Okay, so Matteo, did you want to just give an overview of what your email was about?
Yeah, so I will start saying that I didn't want to finger point at anyone, but my Slack goes on fire after I send the mail. So sorry if someone feels finger pointed by that. So I noticed that is a common thing in Cord to self-approve your own patches, and I'm doing that on the GUI also, but I strongly believe that if we start taking advantages of the code review workflow we have in place, the whole project will benefit from it.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. I can guess that people are feeling pressure to get stuff going because the to-do list in front of them is so large. But you're absolutely right that we need to do a better job of best practices, and that's why I wanted to broaden this just a little bit. They're actually, I don't know if coincidentally or this is all really part of the same issue going on, but there was a document started just a couple weeks or a week ago or so. Let me see if I can get a link to it. Yep. So I'm adding another link into the chat window. This is a document that was just trying to record what our best practices are, and just enough of a roadmap about what lives where and how things work in terms of building out Cord and so on. So this is a place, we're just trying to capture everything a developer should know. And that includes, like I said, where stuff is and how that stuff grows over time, so you know how to get your contribution into the code base. And then right now, just a long linear list of practices that it would be good if everyone, these are our intentions, but we need to do a better job of doing it. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. I need permission to access the document, even if I'm logged in with my OwnLab account. Can you double check that, please?
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
I can work on that.
Yeah. Thanks for taking that on. Yeah. So you should be able to get to it, and if we can make as long as you got the link, I don't see any problem with everyone having access to this. Okay. So I think I think we can all agree that we need to do a better job with code review. I don't know. I know that there's a bit of a balancing act with, first of all, is there QA coverage of what you're trying to check in or not? There are circumstances, there are exceptions built into the code review process because there are reasons sometimes that you need to do something quick in response to a problem. I don't know that we've ever talked very widely about who ought to be reviewing code. We certainly have, modules and areas of expertise. Should we be trying to look for reviews that go across those boundaries or not?
Just to chime in, I totally agree with Matteo about wanting to do more review. One of the things that I think in Garrett, we have it set to automatically include people for specific, depending on their area of expertise onto these. But sometimes honestly, we're getting, if you're one of those people, you get tons of reviews from everyone coming at all times and all angles. So I'm wondering if it would be better if we turned off the automatic adding of reviewers and had that be some other process where we asked for it online or something. I guess we need to figure out a process, and right now we have one that's not really working for people and is a little bit spammy.
So following on to Zach's comments, I noticed some people, they submit their code for review when it's not quite ready. I know I'm guilty of this myself sometimes, and we'll get spammed with 3 or 4 requests from the same patch while someone is actively working on it, and maybe have some guidelines about when it is time to submit your patch for final review.
I think about the patches. If you want to push them just for backup and they are still in progress, you can either use the -D flag, so no one will be notified, or just prefix the commit with WIP, that stands for work in progress, so people will just ignore the mail. And if you're bothered by the mail, you can just go in the Garrett preference and choose which mail you want to receive. You can narrow them down to a single commit or a single project or
Yeah, it's not necessarily being bothered by the mail, but not knowing which of these mails are important and which of them are just someone going about doing their work. When someone actually does want the review versus when something is just automatic. That's why I think, Zach's suggestion about, picking the specific people you want to review when you want them to review it may be a good idea.
Yeah. As far as I know, Garrett will automatically add to the review anyone who has previously changed or touched that file. I don't know.
Yeah, but you can easily add and remove reviewers when the patch is hanging, right? Yeah. I don't really see the problem here.
Well, just as long as people are diligent about doing that.
Yeah, I don't think I think we have all the flexibility in the world. It's just, are there guidelines that people should try to follow? And what are those guidelines? So, if it's built in that you get everyone that's already committed there, that's a reasonable thing. But thinking about adding and removing is probably a good thing too.
I think on my side, I think that we might want to look at the example of module owners that there are in Honest, because for example, sometimes I myself push a patch, and since it's just purely eCord related and eCord services related, nobody gets added to it. So I have to go to somebody to ask for approval or ask for review. So that is also something that we might want to look at.
Yeah, it could also make sense that you can manage your own eCord services and if you broke them, it is your own problem.
Yeah, and that goes in the direction of module owners that we set it up in Honors. Basically, if you do the development of your own application and you're reasonably knowledgeable about the code base, you have some capability of doing reviews and merging. But to your point previously, Matteo, we should have like people to contact for like, oh, the services, you should go to this module owner. Because even if I myself am a module owner, I don't want to push my own patches.
All right, so we got module owners, we've got them at the service level, we probably also have them at the profile manifest level. I mean, for example, it would be nice if there was a, I don't know, those or whoever MCORD-wide approved changes to the profiles. So that's a kind of module.
Yeah.
And then core platform. All right, so I'm happy to continue this discussion. If there are more thoughts, that would be great. But the action item I would like to take is that everyone go to that document. Okay, so Yuan has reposted the link, I believe, right?
Yes.
Good. So if you go to that document, those of you that can do it in real time, there is a little section way down low called Code Review. Let's flesh out the guidelines. Module owners is a work in progress, everything that was just discussed. And don't be shy about putting a line in the sand there, and then people I'm sure will comment on it and we'll get it in shape. Okay, is there anything else to say on that?
It would be nice if we got full QA coverage on all repos so that Jenkins can +1 things. There's many repos that Jenkins isn't attached to and can't give its +1 to.
Right. Thanks. Good point. Okay. I'm just watching this in real time here, so. Oh, I was the one that was going to say something about unit tests. Well, we clearly got a hole there. So that's the other big thing that we need to spend some time on, but I don't know that we have anything productive that we can do right now. Are there other topics to discuss? Okay, yeah.
This topic, are we going to have the ONAP integration, session initiated, or how are we going to go about it?
Are you talking about the meeting that we're getting scheduled to get the ONAP orientation?
That plus maybe like, do we want to have some of our own input before they dictate what the interfaces should be? Should we come up with our own? Do we have our pre-meeting to that?
I don't know what to do in a pre-meeting. I think we just need in my mind, the first step is we just need to see more detail about ONAP before we can figure out how to best interact. So, to me, that's the next thing to happen, and it's scheduled for the end of the week, so that's not too far away.
For sure. Okay, so I'll just keep that meeting for us to, maybe get some more detail.
Yeah, I'm just hoping to treat that as a learning exercise, and then we'll be many of us together the following week at ONS, and we can maybe kind of talk about what to do next.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Okay, anything else? All right, thanks everybody. See you at ONS next week.
Bye, guys.
Thanks.